Hello, and welcome to the channel. Child, I need for y'all to listen carefully to this story because it's not just her. As I was doing my research, it's been 4 of them. But let me start out with her. Chinese researcher in alleged plot to smuggle crop-killing fungus into U.S. will remain in custody while seeking private counsel. Oh, we're going to talk about this. The Chinese researcher accused of helping smuggle a potentially devastating crop-killing fungus into the U.S. will remain in custody until she retains private counsel, according to reports. Young King Jean, 33, appeared in Detroit courtroom for a detention hearing Thursday afternoon, where a public defender assigned to her case asked the court to remove once Jean can hire her own lawyer. The judge consented and scheduled a new detention hearing for June 13th. Jean, a Chinese national and researcher at the University of Michigan, will remain in custody until then. She was arrested on June 3rd, nearly a year after her boyfriend, 34-year-old Xingyang Liu, was stopped by Customs and Border Patrol after arriving at the Detroit Metropolitan Airport on a plane from Shanghai last July. So this is not their first time. I don't even know if I want Chinese food anymore. Liu was found to be carrying samples of Fusarium graminearum, a fungus with the potential to wreak havoc on American crops and farming if successfully manipulated to resist treatment. The danger could be so great that one Trump administration official characterized it as an attack on the American food supply while speaking with the Post. Zhang was working as a lab researcher at the University of Michigan through funding provided by the Chinese government last summer, when her beau, himself a researcher at a Chinese university, was caught trying to enter the country with the samples on the way to visit her. Liu initially tried to hide the samples and then denied they were his, but eventually fessed up and told officials that he wanted to study them at the University of Michigan lab where his girlfriend did similar work. On his phone, agents found a PDF article about plant pathogen warfare that described Fusarium graminearum as an example of destructive disease and pathogen for crops that is responsible for billions of dollars in economic losses worldwide each year. He was barred from entering the country and put on a plane back to China. Well, thank you, Jesus. Jean was interviewed by the FBI about the incident at a University of Michigan lab in February and told investigators that she first learned about her boyfriend's plan when she was stopped at the airport. No, you didn't. You knew what he was doing all along. But searches into her communications with Liu showed the pair had discussed, I told you, sneaking samples of fungus and seeds past U.S. Customs since at least 2022, and that in 2024. Jean signed a document pledging support the leadership of the Communist Party of China and to upload Mao Zedong thought in Marxism and Leninism in January 24 before the boyfriend's encounter in Detroit. I told you she did. Both were charged with conspiring to smuggle a potentially dangerous fungi pathogen into the U.S. while Liu remains at large with the warrant out for his arrest. OMG. Find him. Fusarium graminearum already exists in the U.S., and while it is responsible for an estimated loss of 200 to 400 million worth of U.S. agriculture per year, Rutgers University molecular biologist Dr. Richard E. Bright told the Post it could pose a critical risk to U.S. food supplies if it were modified for resistance or virulence. Now, the U.S. says it has arrested another Chinese researcher accused of smuggling biological material. This is the second such case in a week involving the University of Michigan. U.S. authorities said Monday that they had arrested a Chinese researcher accused of smuggling biological material into the country, the second such case in days. The FBI said in a criminal complaint that the researcher identified as Sheng Heng, a Chinese doctoral student in the College of Life Science and Technology at the Huzhou University of Science and Technology in Wuhan, was arrested Sunday at the airport in Detroit. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. They smuggling stuff over here to put in the crops. So if they getting it over here to put in the crops, imagine when they put in their own food. According to the complaint, since September, Han has sent 4 shipments from China containing concealed biological material to staff members at the laboratory at the University of Michigan, where she planned to spend a year completing a project. Officials said Hung made false statements about the shipments when federal agents questioned her about when she arrived in the United States from Shanghai. Let's take a listen to more of the story.
There is a new scare emerging from the United States. America is confronting a new threat. It involves Chinese researchers and potentially dangerous biological materials. In 1 week, there have been 2 arrests. The latest case was reported just yesterday. A Chinese researcher was arrested in Detroit. She is from Wuhan. The researcher is from Wuhan, and yes, it is the same city where the pandemic began in 2019. Wuhan is back in the headlines now, this time because of a researcher. She's a doctoral student from Wuhan. So what brought her to the US? A 2-year-long research project. But American agencies say that this researcher had a different agenda. Yesterday, they detained her at the airport and took her into custody. And they say that since last year, she has been shipping packages from China. These packages had, quote unquote, biological materials. At least 4 shipments were made in the past. And yesterday, authorities intercepted a similar package. It was concealed between the pages of her books. So what was she bringing in? What was the shipment? It had roundworms, which may sound like a harmless thing, but they can cause serious damage. They can damage crops and disrupt entire ecosystems. Also, you cannot carry these around in the US. You need a permit to bring them in. But this Chinese researcher did not have the permit. What's worse, when local authorities questioned her, she lied. That's what American agencies are saying, that she was lying. And this is not an isolated incident. Last week, 2 more researchers were charged, 2 more Chinese researchers. They too were linked to the smuggling of biological materials. And what did they bring in? A potentially toxic fungus. Again, this was shipped from China. One researcher has been arrested. Reports say she's linked to the Communist Party. Her accomplice is back in China. The U.S. Attorney's Office is looking into the case now, and they have made some serious allegations. Their statement describes the fungus, and I'm quoting, as a potential agro-terrorism weapon, one that can cause billions of dollars in economic losses.
Fusarium graminearum is a worldwide distributed pathogen. It infects wheat and corn and other crops. And it does have the potential to produce toxins, mycotoxins, that can impact the feed quality.
These incidents have alarmed American agencies, from the FBI to Customs and Border officials. They're all part of the investigation. As of now, there is no evidence of malicious intent, though. And remember, there's also a wider crackdown on Chinese students in the US. They're coming under scrutiny. It's part of Trump's trade war and diplomatic wrestling with China. Nonetheless, this pattern of events is worrying, and it must be investigated. Why are Chinese researchers smuggling biological materials into the US? The FBI has also raised this. The FBI chief, his name is Kash Patel. This is what he said, and I'm quoting: "This case is a sobering reminder that the CCP is working around the clock to deploy operatives and researchers to infiltrate American institutions and target our food supply, which would have grave consequences, putting American lives and our economy at serious risk." So we have undeclared and concealed specimens smuggled across borders and packaged as research. If the pandemic has taught us anything, it is this: new health risks may not just come from nature, they're more likely to emerge in a laboratory. Even with the Wuhan virus, the lab leak theory remains unproven, but it has not been dismissed either. And that's because China has blocked access and refused to share evidence. So we may never really know. But here's what we do: biological threats move silently, without warning. They may be carried in suitcases, in small vials, even between the pages of a book. And this is not fiction. This is the reality of our world. The US is raising its guard against these risks. The rest of the world may want to do the same.
Federal authorities say this case presents national security concerns, though they have not alleged that the scientists had a plan to unleash the fungus. But it is already in the U.S., and scientists have been studying it for decades. She was planning to release it. Absolutely. Absolutely. Planning to release it. Zhang was a postdoctoral scholar in China before granted a visa to conduct research at a Texas university. She has been working in Michigan since the summer of 2023. Now, separately, another scientist headed to the University of Michigan was arrested June 8th at Detroit Metropolitan Airport after arriving on a flight from China. She is charged with shipping biological material to the U.S. without a permit. The material is related to worms. Whew, I am done. Guys, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and definitely comment. Let me know your thoughts on this story. Have you heard anything about this before? I don't think I'm ever going to eat Chinese food again. I'm just going to stick to my salads and water. I don't know. Subscribe.